Hi again, it's Jason from Fraser Valley Rose Farm, and because we run our own little nursery here, it should be no surprise to you that some of my favorite content from YouTube has to do with other people who are running their own plant businesses or greenhouses and having a good time doing it. I've seen some really exciting stuff out there. I don't mind highlighting here that the Savvy Dirt Farmer has bought his own big property, is putting up greenhouse structures as we speak. Flower Hill Farm, they got themselves a new pot filler and they're putting in lots of pots of annuals, filling up their greenhouse. And of course, Creekside, well, of course, they're huge, but putting in proven winners plants by the bazillions, I'm going to say, and they've bought themselves a new fancy potting line and everything else. So I'm happy to see all of that success happening. And what do I think of this content? I think it's great. I think it's nice to see those early fledgling steps turn into some success, and they can add a lot of cool new stuff to their content. On the other hand, and it's a concern I have even with the stuff I do here when I'm putting up new structures or potting hundreds of plants on a smaller scale, of course, than Creekside, is that you might get the impression that the only way to go forward in the nursery business is to have lots and lots of money. And I just want to dispel that slightly here and go back to basics and say almost everyone has humble beginnings. Almost no one is born into the business. They all start from small and then move onwards. And some of those early fledgling starts that they make are either cheap or free. And I'm going to give you 10 methods you can do to start your own plant business or nursery business today that are inexpensive or free, that can get you the head start or the jump start or the experience that it takes so that you can have some of those more exciting steps, more expensive steps later on. Number one, let's talk about the plants that are already in your own garden as a resource. Let's talk about them as potential mother plants or stock plants for propagation from division or cuttings for future plants that you would like to grow and sell. Now, these here are my stock plants that I've just purchased in the last 6 months or so, and I'm not suggesting that buying plants is free. What I'm saying is that if you're already a gardener, you may already be spending money on plants, and so shift that budget, push it towards those plants that have a different criteria to them. So don't just go with what's cool, what's interesting, what's unusual, although those are good criteria too, but you also have to wash it through what propagates well. Do I have the right to propagate this? Which is something that I've talked about in other videos here, is you have to do a search about the plant patent. Don't go for the first editions, proven winners, name branded plants that are still protected by 20 years of protection. Go for those things that are free for propagation, those things that are started from seed, but now you can take from cuttings, the species plants, and some of the cooler plants that are a bit older on the market to give you a chance to do this. I know that Mike McGroarty has done a good job on his backyard gardening site of sort of highlighting those plants that are out of patent period and that you can use for your own propagation. So that's what I would suggest you be doing. And if you have any questions about that, drop them in the comments. I'd be happy to go through it really quickly with you about how you can do a search like that on Google to find out if something is covered by patent. Number two, let's talk about free growing information. And by this, I'm not just talking about YouTube channels like mine, I'm talking about professional growing information that they make available for free from all of the big suppliers, people like Ball or Darwin. I'm going to bring up the Darwin site here just to give you an example real quick, which is to say that they put out this site on lavender. Now it shows videos on how to grow the different kinds of lavender, but also gives culture guides to the different lavenders that they offer and even scheduling for the different regions. This information is offered for free by the big growing companies because they want to see their growers be successful. And of course, you can be their customer as well, but it's available for free to you even if you're not one of their customers. So even if you're taking your own cuttings of English lavender, the guides here will be useful in trying to pinpoint your own scheduling. Some people have asked me whether it's worthwhile. I mean, I went to horticulture school, whether it's worthwhile as a start to go to school first and then go into the industry. And my answer to that is it depends. I mean, obviously, if you're after a government job or an institutional job where you're teaching, you'll need that education as a qualification. I found it useful in my transition into the industry, but I could have learned, just as a scrappy guy, I could have learned almost as much by the specific culture guides offered by people like Ball and Darwin. I'm going to throw up some of those links into the comments of the video or the description of the video just to show you where you can find some of those culture guides, but there's lots there, and it is the most specific and professional information about how to grow plants. Well, this is not the flashiest part of our nursery right here, where we have all these used pots lined up ready for potting. What Lisa had to do to get these is she looked around at the industries and those parts of the business are locally that we can get these from. And one of those spots was from blueberry growers, people who get their blueberries that they're planting in their field in these pots, and now they don't know what to do with the pots afterwards. They stockpile them and then they eventually sell them. So she's been looking for listings on Craigslist and Facebook. Another group of people, obviously people who are in the nursery business, who do up pot from smaller sizes of pots into larger sizes of pots. And we found a couple of local nurseries that do that. Cannabis growers sometimes will use a 2 or 3 gallon pot just for one grow cycle, and then they'll be done with it and they'll be selling those pots online. So we got a bunch of those. So when you see on the side of the pot here where it says ice cream, I'm pretty sure that's a cultivar of cannabis because that's what they smelled like when Lisa brought these pots home. Used pots do carry their pros and cons, but the big pro is that I don't have to go out and source expensive new plastic for my pots and build that into the price of the plants as I sell them. Number 4, let's talk about Facebook Marketplace and Facebook as a place to sell plants because it's free. And 5 years ago, I probably would have been talking about Craigslist, but things change and they may change again. Currently, Facebook is offering these listings for free. So there's a window of opportunity where they've done a good job of connecting local buyers to local sellers. And I've talked to so many growers now who have done a good job of exploiting this. A dahlia grower was here the other day who said they've got their collection of dahlias, they did their divisions, and they did a great business this spring selling all of those locally through Facebook Marketplace. So good opportunity there. I find myself, even though I do have a place for retail here, that Facebook listings and Facebook Marketplace ads are a great way of driving customers to my location. Number 5 on my list is to start plants from seed because it is hands down the lowest cost way to get plants into your business in large quantities. Here is a tray that I just germinated recently indoors here. And then of course, this one here has been grown on to the point where it's just about ready to go into pots for sale or out into the garden to flower one way or the other. I'm going to put up a list here of some of the plants I've started from seed this year just to give you an idea of the range, but it's not a complete list because I've probably done 50 or 60 varieties from seed this year. The cool advantage of growing things from seed is that all you really need is a little bit of extra space indoors to germinate them and some planning. That's your big advantage over the customer who basically often doesn't think ahead to the season, so they haven't put those veggie starts in, they haven't put those herb starts in. So you, by choosing cool varieties and growing them well early on, you just have this huge advantage of putting something in front of them at a time when they're saying, yeah, I didn't plan ahead, so I'm willing to pay a little bit to have had somebody else do that thinking for me and have those plant starts in my hands early in the season. Basement rooms, windowsills, back decks, these are your secret weapon. This is your growing space that has special advantages for you because frankly, not everybody has outdoor heated greenhouse space or fancy growing facilities. Even I have a greenhouse outdoors, but it's not a heated greenhouse. So having indoor space like this that is already warmed up for my family, for living space, I can use this to start my plants. And because I have some natural light, I can add some supplemental light. Windowsills are fantastic. If you just have a little windowsill, they have some light there. It's a great way to start seedlings, if only for a couple or 3 weeks early, and then you can add some supplemental light or harden them off in that back deck space, moving them in and out from a basement room like this to the back deck and get those temperatures and get ready for the season. Not everybody starts with perfect growing space, and in fact, at my old property, I ran substantially all of my early sales off of a couple of pallets on blocks on the back deck of my house, just because that's what worked for me at the time. So don't think it has to be glamorous. Whatever growing space you have, try to use it, especially if it's free. Number 7 on my list is to shop around for low order minimums, and let me explain. For a small grower, it's pretty hard to grow everything that you want to grow all by yourself. I mean, as I say, I started plenty from seed, but there's lots of varieties out there. And if you want to offer a big assortment to your customers, you may have to go to outside suppliers. But while it may sound like a great thing to have big boxes of plugs come in and you're putting in 1,000 or 2,000 of the same plant, from my experience, that having a wider assortment, having more different varieties so that you can list them and promote them throughout the season is a good idea. So I like small crop sizes. I'm looking for things that are like 30 pots, 50 pots, and that's plenty for me to test the market on a new variety and see if my customers want it. Something like this, which is just a strip tray. It's not a box full of plants. I mean, this is literally 33 plants that I can test and see, do people want this variety of Agastaki? And then I can up the number for next year. Now, some of the suppliers are going to be saying, no, we want to sell you 288 of something, or there's a 3-box minimum, or that kind of thing. I got this through a local grower, and this is a place called Devon Greenhouses, and they do their own business and they grow and sell their own plants, but they also have a propagation program where they sell on additional starts to other growers, I guess as a way to reduce the risk and the costs in their greenhouses. And so their low order minimums make it perfect for me to order again, small quantities so that I can get a taste of the business without having to take a big amount that I have to pot and manage all at the same time. Number 8 on my list is get to know your local groups. And I'm in the rose business, so it's no surprise that for me it was an important thing to get out in front of my local rose societies early on so they could spread the word of mouth about my business. But likewise, if you have a local garden club or a number of local garden clubs, it doesn't hurt to join, it doesn't hurt to attend, just to see what's out there. Sometimes they have plant sales that they'll invite vendors to, that kind of thing. Getting out to the local farmers market, well, it seems like small potatoes in terms of sales. The connections that I made working at farmers markets or selling my plants at farmers markets have lasted the years in improving my business, and still some of the best people I see here on the farm I can trace back to times that I introduced myself to them at the local farmers market. And by the way, I'm back at farmers markets a little bit again this year, just to again put out and spread that word of mouth. So don't take it for granted that everybody's going to know where you are, that if you just grow a good plant, that people are going to come and find you. You have to get that word out, and the best way to do that is to join the Facebook groups for gardening in your local area, your garden clubs, your plant societies, and other people who are interested in the same things that you are. Number 9 on my list is to grow your plants from cuttings or division to save money. Now, everything on these benches here substantially are from cuttings from last year, and they will make the majority of what I sell this year. So all of my nursery sales are fueled by things that only cost me the labor that it took to produce the plants, maybe a little bit of soil, some plastic trays, but certainly nowhere near what it would have taken me to buy in these plants. So learning how to do from cuttings or from division is a great way to lower your costs in the business, and I have some videos that can help you with that. The final and probably the most important piece of advice in this video is don't be afraid to make a fool of yourself. And I could apply this in a million different ways, because you would be learning and trying so many new things that you're liable to make mistakes. And that's going to be out in front of people, and that can make you feel a little bit foolish. But most directly, I mean, don't be afraid to make a fool of yourself in front of the camera or in your public face as the face of what you're doing for your plant business. And I know a lot of people aren't very comfortable with public speaking. Neither am I. I don't enjoy it. But pulling out your phone and doing a Facebook video or social media posts on behalf of your business is the great equalizer. It's the thing that so many big and well-established nurseries are so bad at, and so many small nurseries are on equal footing with them. So if you want to drum up business, one of the best and easiest things you can do is to get on YouTube as one of them, get onto Instagram, get onto Facebook, get onto TikTok, whatever platform you're most comfortable with, whatever way you feel the most comfortable, whether it's your phone, whether it's with a camera, and become the face of your company. And don't be afraid to make 30 seconds of foolishness every day or every week on a regular schedule, just until you get comfortable enough to do that and become the voice of your brand, you know, as humble as that brand may be. All right, thanks so much for watching today. If you have any questions about any of this, please drop those into the comments below the video. I'll see what I can do to help.